Welcome back to Grit Gym. This is Tori and I'm Adam. Today we're talking about proteins and what kind. Like are we talking animal? Are we talking plant? Are we talking supplements? When we get into supplements, we're talking about like whey protein, casein, rye protein, rice protein, pea protein, cranberry protein, hemp protein. It's a lot of proteins. Anyway, we're going to stay away from the vegan versus keto thing. We'll get into it probably just a little bit because, it's bound to come up. But protein is one of your 3 macronutrients. It is an essential macronutrient. You cannot live without it. You can live without carbs. You can't live without fat or protein. And and a macronutrient is where you get your calories, right?
Right.
So we're going to get into proteins. What do we need to know?
Well, what is a protein? Like, what does that mean?
That's a good point.
Well, protein is an amino acid. So amino acid is the building blocks of proteins. And what proteins do is they help with you at the cellular function. So if you don't have them, then certain reactions don't happen. And then also you don't make those gains.
Dim gains. So from a metabolic processing standpoint, it is significant, not just necessarily to give your body calories, but actually to make sure that everything functions the way that it can so that you can maintain homeostasis and blow up your biceps.
Right. Yeah. They're important. We need them. We can't live without them.
All right, where do we find protein? Well, where do we find amino acids? Maybe we should say it that way first.
Amino acids, well, they're in animal sources and plant sources. They're in a lot of things.
What would be the big difference between plant sources and animal sources as far as amino acids go?
I think just the way that our body takes them in and the quality of them.
True.
Animal, from my understanding, what I've learned, animal is just going to be a little bit better than plant.
Yeah, well, and it's a complete amino. Like an animal it's always a complete essential amino acid chain, whereas a plant, you're going to have to eat multiple different plants to complete the acid chain. So corn, for instance, doesn't have a complete amino acid chain for your muscle. You're going to have to supplement, or you're going to have other vegetables in there to get the full spectrum.
What do you mean by amino acid chain, for those who don't know?
Oh, complete amino acid chain?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, there are essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. So thanks for turning the tide and making all the questions for me.
You're
welcome. There are things that your body can already produce, right? And then there are things that your body can't produce. Your body can't produce its own protein, it can't produce its own fat, and it can't produce certain amino acids, just like it can't produce certain vitamins and minerals. So the ones that it can produce are called non-essential. Still important to get in your diet, but not nearly as important as the essential ones that your body can't make. So the essential amino acids you need to survive. So if you want to make it easy, you grab some animal protein and call it good.
Right. Long answer short, eat animal protein. The end.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
So as far as let's dig into animal protein just a little bit. All right, so we've got chicken, beef, pork, fish, other types of seafood, I guess. Anything? Are there any others in there?
Eggs.
Eggs. True.
Eggs.
I'd put that in the chicken
Eggs.
category. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, okay, so are eggs safe? Should we only be eating egg whites? I know we're kind of bridging the gap here to the next video that's going to be the fat video, but
I see. Eat the whole egg.
Eat the whole
egg.
Okay, so let's stick to the chicken category. Okay. Why might we choose chickens? Is that the top level source of animal protein that we can find?
It depends. So chicken, it has some micronutrients in it and is pretty lean. But then you also have beef too, which it's going to be a little bit fattier, but not that much. And then you also have other micronutrients and the iron, which a lot of females are going to need.
Okay, and we talked about micronutrients in the leafy green video.
Right.
So when we eat proteins, protein sources like animal, are we getting 0 micronutrients in those foods, or are we still getting a great deal of micronutrients from chicken, beef, pork?
We're getting both.
Sweet.
Bang for your buck, man.
Okay, So you're still getting like if you basically what we're questioning there is if you eat beef, you're still getting a great number of micronutrients in along with that macronutrient. It's not so cut and dry that like no macronutrients in this or no micronutrients in this.
This is only protein.
It's only protein. It's pure protein. Okay, so what about the line? The less feet, the better. You never heard that one? Yeah, the less feet, the better. When it comes to animal protein, is a line that got used back like late 90s. And it was basically saying a fish would be your top level of protein, and then a chicken would be your next source, and then a cow would be your next source. It was kind of in like an anti cholesterol sort of scenario, but yeah. So there obviously is like a certain amount of benefit to that. You know, like are you going to say that fish are bad or that chicken is bad? But it's kind of leading towards is beef bad? Can we talk about beef a little bit?
Sure.
Beef it up.
That
was bad. That was bad. That was bad. That was bad.
Well.
All right. So beef have 4 feet, 4 hooves, whatever.
Right. 4 legs.
4 legs.
Well.
What's going on here?
It just depends on where you get your beef. So are you getting it with, what is it, like 15% fat, not
grain-fed,
yeah.
stressed out animal. Like I'm not like saying that that cattle fed tons of medications are necessarily bad, but there probably is a certain amount of getting back to nature is typically good for us. So. So grass-fed beef is usually going to be your better alternative.
I think whatever they eat, you're going to eat too. So if they're plumped full of steroids and medications and stuff like that, like that's just going to transfer into you too.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to take a bunch of steroids, then why do that?
And I think this is where the vegan sort of scenario comes up is the Ron Swanson, you know, do I eat the food that my food eats? No, I do not. You know, joke. But that is there is a certain amount of accuracy to that. A cow has more stomachs than you do and a much longer digestive tract where they can break down grass and then turn it into muscle. We cannot do that. So in order to get the nutrients from the grass, we have to eat the cow.
Right. It's like they're the middleman.
Yep.
A delicious middleman.
Okay, so some differences between conventional farm-raised cattle versus grass-fed cattle. What are some things that some pros and cons to each one?
Well, first one would be price.
That's a bit of a con. Grass-fed beef is typically a little bit more expensive.
A little bit
You're
more.
probably going to pay 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 times as much. It's a bummer.
Yeah, bummer. And then for grass-fed, like we said, you're going to have like the less steroids and less antibiotics and stuff like that.
Which is probably a plus, likely.
Probably, yeah.
CLA is going to be much higher. So I know I'm bridging into the fat talk that we're going to have next, but conjugated linoleic acid is pretty good for you.
Yeah. I think, though, it's your best judgment, whatever you feel. Like if you can't spend that much on beef, then the other one will be just fine.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like organic produce. There's certain times where it's like obvious, like yes, it's probably a good idea, and other times where it's kind of a wash and it just probably does not matter all that much. And it really comes down to you're a grown individual. You can make your own choices. So.
Right.
But there are definite benefits to eating grass-fed beef.
Yep.
But okay, what about pork? Should we just be eating bacon all the time? Go back to Atkins, where we're just, pound of bacon every day?
Sure. Why not? Go for it. Let me know how that works out for you. Pork, it's good for you. It's gonna have different micronutrients than the cow or the beef will. Nowadays, you can still get it pretty lean, but I definitely still wouldn't eat a pound of bacon every day.
It is pretty wild. Like when I was a kid, you could do, let's say, 4 pieces of bacon in the bottom of a skillet would fill that skillet.
Oh, wow.
With fat. And today, like you put a piece, like 4 pieces in, and it's just like dry. It's amazing. I can't like. It's almost silly that I'm saying this, but it's amazing how lean bacon is today versus how fatty it used to be. Yeah, and pork with the pork used to be grown outside, like cattle are, but they just would get so fatty that it would cost more anyway. So now they have them inside of buildings where they can control the temperature, and the pig stays a lot leaner, a lot more lean, whatever. And so it's much more lean today. It's almost as lean as chicken sometimes.
Yeah, it's delicious. And again, it's preference. If you don't like pork, then you don't have to eat pork.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. I mean, we're in Iowa, so like pork chops are kind of a thing, but
pork chops are delicious. I had them last night actually. I was like,
All right, and then seafood would be the last one. Fish and seafood. The nice thing about that is it's extremely lean for the most part, and typically the fats that you get from fish are kind of good fats. So it's kind of a safe bet. Anything else you would say about it?
Just make sure that you pay attention. Well, with everything, just pay attention from the source where you're getting.
Oh yeah, totally. So what would be a good source versus a bad source, or what would be an ideal source? I'll say it that way. I'll try to take good and bad out of it.
Well, an ideal source would be like right out of the ocean. That's where they're gonna have like all their stuff. Just go out, get a fishing rod, come back in. Or I guess you can do it from a lake too, but I don't know.
We're in Iowa.
Yeah. And then just.
But wild caught would be a good idea, even though that's probably nonsense. It's probably it's like cage free or something like that,
Yeah. So or just like I know a couple of times that I bought fish, like this goes for anything, it was already expired, and I was just like, oh man.
Did you eat it anyway?
No, I did not.
Oh really? My take on old food is always like if you've ever had food poisoning, how much would you have paid to not have food poisoning? And
a lot.
And I always ask myself that question whenever I have anything like questionable in the fridge, and I would pay a lot more than what I paid for this, so I throw it away. Yeah.
That's probably a good rule of thumb there.
Yeah. But okay, well, what about plant protein? Plant-based protein. Where are some places that we're finding it?
Well.
Is that going to be tough? Sounds like that's a hard question.
Well, there are some in nuts.
True.
And there are some in beans, even though they say that they're more of a carb source. But they are in there.
Before the video, I told her that we were listing these out, and I said nuts is a fat source, not a protein source. It's a fat source that happens to have protein, not a protein source that happens to have fat. And that beans are a carb source that happen to have protein, not a protein source that happens to have carbs. There's just not very many. It's just pretty low in the category. So, but yes, there are protein in those things. What about quinoa?
Quinoa, yeah.
Spelled like quinoa. It's Quinoa. It looks like quinoa. It's quinoa. Quinoa.
What is this quinoa?
Quinoa. And spinach is another one. It's because the spirulina in it, right?
Yeah. You wouldn't think spinach, I'm getting my veggies. No, you're getting some protein in there too.
Yeah, but for the most part, almost everything has some level of protein. I mean, even bread has a little bit of protein in it. I mean, the gluten is protein technically. So. Yeah,
it just depends what the quality is. So quality is how your body best absorbs it, and then how your body is able to use it. So the higher qualities, your body's going to get more of the protein, be able to use it better, versus the lower quality, where your body has to actually work just a little bit harder to extract that protein and to put it to use.
Yeah. So anybody who's on a raw food diet or a vegan diet, the chances of them being extremely malnutritioned is almost 100%. It's so difficult to extract the necessary nutrients from the food, macro and micro, on a raw food or a vegan diet, that it's like you're almost essentially guaranteeing to be malnutrition on some level, no matter how good you do at it. So yeah, it's a tough go. It's a really tough go. So anyway, what was I going to ask? I was going to ask something right before that, and then it just
probably going to be a really good question too.
Metabolic processing. What's the quickest and what's the slowest? So this question is like, how fast does our body digest certain proteins, or how slow does it digest other proteins? And why would this be significant?
Well, it just depends on what you're trying to do. So the slowest would be eggs. It takes about, 12 to 16 hours. It's a pretty long time.
Pretty sure it's something like that.
Around
it's a long
there.
time.
Around there. Don't quote me. And then the fastest would be like your supplements. So like your protein powders or your BCAAs, stuff like that.
Yeah. So specifically whey. Whey is going to get into you the fastest, like by far. Casein is a little slower, and then all your vegan proteins are going to be much slower. So.
Right. So that is where timing comes into play. So if you just got done with a really hard workout, you don't want a slow fasting or slow
fasting.
Yeah. I said it and I was like, oh no. Slow digesting protein, because then there is a window, like right after you get done working out, then your muscles and everything, they need that protein. They need those carbohydrates to recover and to do their thing. So if you have a slow digesting one, then you're going to miss that window. So if you get like a protein shake or a BCA or some
or a bar. BCA is branched chain amino acid.
Right.
So valine, isovaline, or leucine, isoleucine, and valine. I almost did that backwards. So they're the muscles found in or the amino acids that are found in your muscles. So you're pushing those in, but right after a workout, you have like a 1 hour window. That's not the exact same for every single person. It's not like at 59 seconds.
It just shuts down.
At 59 minutes,
too late.
We're open. At 61, we're done. But your muscles are open, and they're accepting. They're like, get in me to recover. So you want to feed them that.
There's a lot of hand gestures.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
And one of them got kind of close. I felt the wind. I was like, whoa. But yeah, so it just depends on what you're doing. So if you're working out, after that you want a faster digesting one versus in the morning. Probably a good idea just to have protein slowly throughout the day. So you're using your muscles throughout the day, so you get stretched out.
Yeah, you get kind of a drip, right?
Yeah.
Protein is also your most stable macronutrient. Like if you think of carbs more like gasoline, and protein like coal, like it's like a slow burner. And just because you're eating protein doesn't mean that it's necessarily just shoving it right into your muscle. Your body is going to burn the protein that ends up going into your blood and through the metabolic processes. So it's using it all. So if you're trying to lose fat, you want to eat protein to keep the muscle. And if you're trying to gain muscle, you want to eat the protein to gain the muscle.
Right. What he said.
All right, but the quickest and the slowest matters. I mean, it matters from a workout standpoint. It matters from a breakfast standpoint. And you got to think like, what's going to stay in your system the longest? I mean, if you're trying to go run a marathon and you're going to eat a ton of protein 15 minutes before the race, well, that's going to stick in you. You're going to eat a bunch of eggs right before a competition. See what I mean?
Not the best idea there.
Versus you're going to go sit in a desk all day and you want to eat cake.
Yeah, you're going to be hungry in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're going to go get another piece of cake.
Yeah, I mean, you go eat the Americanized version of Chinese food. It's all starch, you know?
But it is delicious.
Yeah, I will admit. Okay, so we got a little bit about protein there. What to eat around your workouts, what to eat for breakfast, what's the quickest, what's the slowest, how it affects your metabolism. One thing I don't think we didn't talk about satiation, just feeling full, which is another benefit of protein. You're probably going to feel just more full faster than you would from most carbohydrates and from fats. But for the most part, you're going to find it more readily available in animals versus plants. Not to say that you can't get it from plants. It's just going to be extremely difficult. And even then, it's almost guaranteed that you're not going to get it all. So, anything else before we sign off and go to the next one?
I think that's good.
We really covered a lot there, actually.
I know. I was trying to think of summarizing. So animal protein, go for it. It's good for you. Beef is going to be good for you. I would probably rank that one a little bit higher than the other ones just because of the other micronutrients that you are going to get with it.
Yeah. You didn't talk about that a ton. Like the beef, like the benefits of beef are astounding. And it's really too bad because beef got a really bad reputation back in the late 80s and early 90s from the cholesterol debate. But almost like your body is set up to eat beef. I mean, like our genetics are almost dependent on eating beef. I mean, we parallel, anyway, you're almost essentially never going, like no human almost is going to be, you'd be an extreme anomaly to be allergic to beef. It's just,
that'd be a bummer, man.
How that would suck. But anyway, point being, beef, good.
Beef, good. Yeah, eat it. And then eggs are going to be really good for you as well. Even in the egg yolk, you have choline, which is going to help with your mental focus. So that's neat.
And you can't really find it very many other places. I mean, for the most part, egg yolks are your most significant and readily available source of choline.
Right. So both good for you. And then protein timing, so faster digesting after your workout, slower in the morning. And then protein sources, whey is going to be a little bit better if you're doing the supplement rather than plant-based.
Yeah. And all of these are subject to change based on the individual. There are certain things that, like there's a ton of individualization here. We're painting with very broad strokes. However, most of this will help 95% of people. So experiment on yourself and ask us lots of questions.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Anyway, on to the next one. Thanks, guys.